In this video, we are going to discuss how the pH change before and after the equivalent point, and here shows a typical titration setup. The standard hydrochloric acid is used to find the molarity of sodium hydroxide. And some of you may wonder, during the titration, why the pH value changed sharply at equivalent point. Before we have our discussion, so let's recall the following concept. First, the equivalent point is the point where the acid and base react with each other completely, while the endpoint is referred to the point that the indicator changes its color. In most cases, the equivalent point do not match with the endpoint. In order to simplify our discussion, we have standard hydrochloric acid and sodium hydroxide solution. The molarity of both solutions is 1 m, and we have 25 cm³ of hydrochloric acid. So you can expect the equivalent point happen when there is 25 cm³ of sodium hydroxide is used. During titration, 1 drop solution is approximately 0.05 cm³. So we can conclude that 1 drop of 1 m sodium hydroxide solution will contain 5 times 10 to the power minus 5 mole hydroxide ion. And our discussion will be divided into 3 stages: just before equivalent point, at equivalent point, and just after the equivalent point. And here we start. We have 25 cm³ hydrochloric acid and 24.95 cm³ of sodium hydroxide. With calculation, we have 5 times 10 to the minus 5 mole hydrogen ion in excess. This is 1 drop solution just before the equivalent point. With the calculation, we can find the molarity of hydrogen ion like this, and we can find the pH value of this solution just before the equivalent point is about 3. At equivalent point, the case is simpler. The pH equal to 7 because there is no excess of sodium hydroxide or hydrochloric acid. After the equivalent point, we add 1 more drop of sodium hydroxide solution. And here shows, now the hydroxide ion is in excess in 1 drop. The molarity of hydroxide ion is shown here. In order to find the pH value, we need to find the pOH value first. From the link shown in above, you can find how can we find the pH value of an alkaline solution in another video. So the pOH of this solution is 3 and refer to the pH value equals to 11. In this table, you can see the pH change A before and after the equivalent point within 2 drops of sodium hydroxide solution. Now you understand why students miss the equivalent point easily during the titration, because the experiment is so sensitive. And here I showed you the color of different indicators. Both methyl orange and phenolphthalein, their color change, that is endpoint, match with the equivalent point. That's why we can choose both indicators in the titration experiment. And that's the end of this video.